I interviewed Lee one time, and he had a work of art behind there, and it was a stop sign, and somebody had gone on there with graffiti, and instead of stop, they added the word art, so then it said start, and I was like, that's a brilliant piece of art. So let's continue to learn about they, them, those who can easily be named. Now, there is a clip going around this week where Ben Shapiro said several times, it's not a good look. And he keeps saying this. And I really wanted to take that to the bank and say some things about it. But I couldn't find the clip. And the person who showed me the clip, I don't want to play that whole clip. So anyway, we're going to go to clips that are more meaningful than just making fun of Ben Shapiro. In this block, we have Dave Smith flames Ben Shapiro for Israel wokeness. It'll be interesting. But first, we've got up Theo Vaughn. He has a 3-minute soliloquy. It's called What Have We Become? It's a good question. Dave Smith flames Ben Shapiro. It's breaking points or broken points, depending on how you see their views. And then Israel fires on diplomats, Lee Camp. So before we can get to the Israeli diplomats that were shot in D.C. this past week, if we go in chronological order, Israel had just gotten caught on video shooting at diplomats. So when weighing these stories, I'm not saying either one of these stories is good and the other one's bad. I think they're both bad stories. But I just want to show like the balance of it. So if you're going to feel like, oh, we have to do all these things here because of this, I want you to also weigh, dude, they just shot at him over there. They blow up press units over there. They blow up doctors over. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's been going on. And the people that are giving out most of the news might have the same type of ties to the people doing it as apparently Bongino and Patel might have. But we'll see. We'll wait and see. We'll give it the benefit of the doubt. All right, so we've got Lee Camp, breaking points, and let's kick it off with Theo Vaughn.
I wanted to say something. There's been something that's just been kind of on my heart, and so I feel like I should bring it up. There is, we've had people on the podcast in the past to talk about it, and there's a conflict that's been happening in the Middle East. People know about it, between Israel and Palestine and some of the areas over there, the Gaza area they talk about. And I just think it feels to me, I don't know if it feels to me like it's a genocide that's happening while we're alive here in front of our lives.
Let's go ahead and get to this woke right situation. I want to set this up with some news with regard to Project Esther, it's called, which is this plan that was hatched by the Heritage Foundation, which has really been implemented almost completely by the Trump administration to silence any sort of dissent from the Israel consensus. And we can put this article up from the New York Times. I mean, this is, again, the mainstream press reporting on something that both Dropsite News and Theo reported on, quite a while ago, maybe a year ago. But they have some interesting details here. The headline is, the group behind Project 2025 has a plan to crush the pro-Palestinian movement. Project Esther outlined an ambitious plan to fight anti-Semitism by branding a broad range of critics of Israel, like you and me, Dave, as effectively a terrorist support network so that they could be deported, defunded, sued, fired, expelled, ostracized, and otherwise excluded from what it considered open society. Project Esther's architects envisioned outcomes that at the time might have seemed far-fetched. Curriculum believed to be sympathetic to a Hamas support narrative would be taken out of schools and universities. Supporting faculty would be removed. Social media would be purged of content deemed to be anti-Semitic. Institutions would lose public funding. Foreign students who push for Palestinian rights would have their visas revoked or deported. And they said once a sympathetic presidential administration was in place, according to the plan, we will organize rapidly, take immediate action to stop the bleeding, and achieve all objectives within 2 years. Now, 4 months after Mr. Trump took office, Heritage Foundation leaders are taking an early victory.
Okay. Now you've seen the whole video. Now we're going to show the BBC version. This is in the West Bank, by the way.
Janine.
هون آمن So that's the diplomats kind of ducking into the cars to get out of the way of the warning shots, as you so correctly said.
Warning shots. Well, you have to. Did you show the headline? I think it's worth just seeing it in print.
It says Israel fires warning shots near diplomats in the West Bank.
It's a hell of a way to say shot at international diplomats.
This show is not sponsored by Chapter or any other outside type of entity. All right, so Lee Camp and Eleanor, I think it's Goldstein is her last name. She made a famous piece, not a famous piece of art. There, I interviewed Lee one time, and he had a work of art behind there, and it was a stop sign, and somebody had gone on there with graffiti, and instead of stop, they added the word art. So then it said start, and I was like, that's a brilliant piece of art. And then I asked who made it. And then I found out later that's his co-host, Eleanor, who made that art. So, yeah, always insightful and funny, Lee Camp is. Sad stories coming out of Gaza because that was Jenin. That's the West Bank where those diplomats are getting shot at over there. And that's a big deal. And I think it's a big deal when diplomats are getting shot at anywhere because they're diplomats and they're supposed to have, do we have this on the soundboard? Of course we don't. Diplomatic immunity. But that is a phrase used in Lethal Weapon. If you're not familiar with it, I highly recommend it. Also got me to buy a nail gun because it's a little pew-pew in one of those. Maybe it's Lethal Weapon 2. Paul can correct me, I'm sure, on that one. All right, so the situation in Jenin is not a concentration camp, a refugee camp. And there's people there taking shelter. It's in the West Bank. It's not in Gaza. West Bank is run by Palestinian Authority. Gaza is run by Hamas. So there's people getting shot at in a place that they're not supposed to get shot at from like a couple of different angles. They're not supposed to be settling in the West Bank. They're not supposed to be shooting people in the West Bank. There's definitely not supposed to be shooting in refugee camps in the West Bank. All that is highly unusual, but usual, given if you've been keeping up with the news over the past 47, 50, 54 years since 67, something like that. Don't do live show math. That's my rule. All right. So, gentlemen, do you guys know much about the Heritage Foundation that was mentioned in there? Because they had that Project Esther, which I got asked about in Q&A earlier today. I had no idea about it, but now I'm a little bit more educated about it. And I did do a deep dive with them about the Heritage Foundation. So I wanted to see if it was on your radar, if you guys knew about Project Esther.
I'd heard about Project 2025 from the Heritage Foundation because it was propagandized about as like that's the big fear, but they didn't focus on Project Esther in those criticisms. And yeah, it's pretty much the opposite of everything that they've been railing against in terms of being for free speech, but except for this one thing. And it just happens to help cover up war crimes and a whole bunch of other atrocities.
Yeah, I think my association with it is like Tucker's and like Tucker, a big wig
Yes.
or something. Yeah. I think I've
Yep.
seen him speak at these various different Heritage Foundation things, and but I'm not sure exactly what his ties
They
are.
have found him a useful tool in the past to their agenda, but maybe not right now, right? So I don't know if he's still on their agenda, but I know in the past they had funded him because I put the Heritage Foundation and the History Blueprint once upon a time, and Tucker Carlson is a causality I had under there. But when you learn about guild socialism and Koch Industries, right? What does Koch Industries, Koch brothers mean to you? Koch brothers got their money in the family from, who was it? Was it this Koch? Let's see. There's a couple different. There was Fred Chase Koch, right? This guy right here. Now, how did Fred Chase Koch get his money? He went to MIT, right? Oh, he worked for the Nobel family, the Rothschild, funded oil monopoly of Europe. So Fred Koch was in on the Cold War on the side of the people who created the Cold War and communism and, creating the Bolshevik Revolution and on. So Fred Chase Koch made his money plundering the mineral wealth and productivity of Soviet Union, Russia, while they were having gulags. Okay. This American earned his money in a very un-American way. And then he left it to the famous Koch brothers. And if you go down to the Koch companies and Koch industries, they fund ALEC. They fund the American Enterprise Institute. They fund the Cato Institute. They fund the Hudson Institute. They found they fund Reason Foundation, and they fund the Heritage Foundation. So when you see any agenda coming from any of these places, part of it is with the people who created communism as the artificial other end of the spectrum for capitalism. These are the people who industrialized the Soviet Union so that they could do the things that they did over there. They industrialized Red China so they could do the things they could do over there. They industrialized post World War I Germany so they could do the things that they did over there. So these people are not our friends. And they have an agenda that is cloaked in freedom, but underneath it's international globalism of the worst kind of variety. So when you see things like this that are like, how can that help to take away American free speech? But they use it under the guise of like anti-hate, right? And one group has a special thing where you can't be you could be racist to all these other groups. You don't get all these other penalties, but this one group, there's something about it. I don't know. You know, that guy Ye has said a bunch of stuff. I don't know. Are they trying to prove him right? Because every move he makes, like I don't know, is he 5D chessing? I don't know, but he said the thing, and then they did the thing to prove that what he said might have some validity. I don't know who controls what, but it is interesting when you look into the history of these types of entities. Because when you go to when you think communism, you think communists. You don't think people from Wall Street, right? You don't think about the American International Corporation, which was a whole bunch of people who participated in the creation of the Federal Reserve and then used all the robber baron money because they were done building railroads and subways here. They had to go to Russia and China and sell some stuff over there, right? So this communism or international socialism, that's what it is not different from the National Socialism that they funded next door over there in Germany. So these people have been running a lot of different experiments over the years. And if you don't stop to take a look around at who's doing what, like you're not going to understand what they're doing now. And you would have very little chance coming across like this information from watching Bongino or Tucker Carlson. I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah, no doubt. I do want to correct what I was saying earlier. So apparently, what Bongino did is he handed his Rumble channel over to this other dude named Vince. I don't know. Apparently, it's a huge channel. So
See the guy from The Color of Money?
I don't.
He's like a pool player.
No, I have no idea.
Vince I know.
But anyway, he's basically they rebranded his channel. You can go back and find his old episodes. They are still there, but it's under this new channel. So
Bongino had one of the biggest shows on the internet.
Exactly. And so now apparently Vince has like the biggest show on the internet now. So I thought that was interesting.
I'm sure he deserves it.
I'm sure he does too. But another thing I thought was really interesting that Dave Smith said in that one clip was it is interesting how all the people that kind of have like this public persona of going and attacking the wokes in the college campuses and stuff, like Ben Shapiro. I would say Charlie Kirk really comes to mind too. Yeah. Steven Crowder, like they all seem to have like a very similar view. So it's interesting how they've been positioned as the anti-woke college campus people.
Those people all have the same predetermined view on Christian Zionism too.
Exactly.
Almost as if they accepted the marketing from the brochure without reading the book. Just observations.
I was going to say, is the Heritage Foundation handing out Schofield Bibles or what's going on here? Because it seems to really reinforce the idea of Christian Zionism and whipping up, like, remember 20 years ago, the George Bush evangelicals, basically the same playbook. You know what I mean? It's like, this is a holy war. We need to do this because it's going to cause Armageddon, which then brings about the rapture, which means then you're saved. But there's already like a grander plan to do like a fake version of that to then, after that, then the rapture doesn't happen. They go, ha ha, fooled you. We were Luciferians all along, or whatever that plan is supposed to be, right?
Do the Gideons hand out Schofield Bibles? That's a question. And then there was a second part that I had, but I'm interested, like, is the Bible they put in all the drawers at all the hotel rooms, is that the new fangled one? Is that Schofield reflection, or is it different? Are the Gideons at war with the Zionists? Are they on board with it? What's the angle? Can Chat GPT tell us?
I'm looking right here.
Yeah, see, human beings looking. See? Chat GPT, we're looking.
Human being.
You've never human being there. Does that work? Something like that. There was another, I want to get the Ben Shapiro one where he's like, it's a bad look. It's a bad look. Because I think it was about Donald Trump Jr. saying he wanted to be president. It's a bad look. Meeting with Arab leaders. Legal Zoom. No,
yeah, I got to give a big shout out to LD. Big shout out to LD. I got and shout out to Colby. I got the list of all the classic Grand Theft World soundboard clips. I'm going through trying to find the good ones. I'll look for some Shapiro ones.
LD has all the best.
Yep, I got it right here, man.
Yeah.
Stokes. Shout out to LD, man. Much love.
Shout out to LD. He needs an extra large shout out.
Yeah.
He's talking to me.
You have a surprisingly good Ben Shapiro impersonation. I was not expecting that. So
Really, well, thank you, Tease. It's first time on the show. Sometimes I talk really fast like this, and sometimes I'll talk really slow for emphasis. I don't watch Shapiro enough to do an impression, but like I do a better impression of Paul's Walken impression. Watching you makes me a little crazy, something like that. But then Paul's just imitating Byron Bertram's, he's the Russian news guy that we've played clips over the past couple weeks. So Paul's impression is actually of his, and I think Byron's probably came from Christopher Walken making fun of himself while dancing in this Fat Boy Slim video. It's the coffee.
That's right. I also want to. You got to give props to Theo Von for risking all his advertising dollars by coming out in his very soft stance in pro-Palestine, and it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to upset Zionist advertisers.
Cut to Butthead. Wow, Beavis.
Hey, Beavis. What's going on? These Zionists suck.
Oh, if we're doing impersonations, guys, like I'll just say it this way. One of the things that I get wrapped up in is the degree to which people apply responsibility to a particular label. Kind of like that Fabian socialist thing. So the entity that is at the root of this decrepit evil, I'll get you next time.
Dr. Claw.
Yep.
Inspector Gadget. That's a deep cut. That was on TV in Canada all the time throughout the 80s and 90s. So Inspector Gadget. Syndicated.
Never seen it. All right, we'll end the impression wars there.
Maybe not.
I can get the puppet. Keep doing it. Hold on.
You got a puppet?
Oh yeah, I got a Kermit puppet.
You play the Frank Oz aspect,
He's the
and I'll play BB putting the voice through Trump's mouth. Is that how that works?
I don't have a dildo for that impersonation.
Oh, that's a Schmoly impression. You mixed it up with James Comey.
Special guest Jordan Peterson, people, off of his.
Hey, this is Jordan Peterson. I'm telling you to clean your room and listen to Grand Theft World.
Only if Tease was on screen. See, like we have to work out how if someone has the B-roll of Tease doing that on screen while I say that, then
basically you're just gonna have to get your own cheap Kermit puppet from Amazon in order to be able to rip on.
I might, dude.
Yep,
that could be funny.
This is the thing I'm doing. The puppet show is an offshoot in between the other things. So hey,
I'm not so good at ventriloquism, so all going to study Jeff Dunham this weekend. Or what was that guy's name? No, wait, Jeff Foxworthy. That's you might be a redneck. Who's the guy that does the puppet?
That's Dunham.
Jeff Dunham. Thank you.
Team America.
First time.
Team America was a documentary.
It was. Coming to save the motherfucking day. Yeah, it's a catchy tune too. Brought to you by the makers of South Park. During the War on Terror, we will make fun of the whole thing. Set you at ease as World War III kicks off. Yeah, I remember that. That was good shit. Team America. Can you make any animations like that, Tease? First off, I thought Team America, it looked so realistic, like they were actually doing puppets. So I was like, are they doing puppets or is this animated like puppets? What is going on? So I saw it at a bunch of different levels, but can you do animations like that, Tease?
I can send you one right now. That's a private link that I already did from puppets. That's less than a minute long, so we can watch it together, and it'll be a cute little thing. But insofar as what that was, it was string puppet, kind of more like a la Malkovich, that kind of thing. And it was very much real. I haven't seen too much behind the scenes on it, but it was quite an elaborate and sophisticated production, both in their script writing and what they're able to get out. So yeah, it's one of those gems where it's like kind of, I like the way you described it, making fun of the entire War on Terror as they kick off World War III. Yeah,
it's like the Super Troopers of the War on Terror.
Yeah, yeah, man. That was it, basically. Yeah.
You boys ever been to Mexico? That was classic too. Yep, yep, yep. All right, so if you want to send that over, we'll play your puppet movie. I didn't know
Sure.
you
It's
had
like
one.
45 seconds. It's unlisted, so I'll grab it. Just give me a second here.
The audience will be able to take it. We have a tough audience here. They can deal with puppets.
Yeah, they'll understand what I'm talking about.
I
But
think,
don't wait. My computer's slow, so one second.
yeah.
Copy link, dropping it over. Blah, blah, blah.
Narration
Yeah,
provided
right.
by Tease. Also, I had an idea. We were talking about it in pre-show, but I'll just tell you in front of the audience here. So we were thinking about sending you over as like a roving correspondent in Israel, and the segments can be called Tease in the Middle East, and you just stay there till it's done, until we get it done. What do you think?
I've always had a suicide death wish, which is a part of why I've gotten into what I do. So that sounds like the perfect mission for me, man.
You just have to go over there and you ululate. Or do they do that there? I don't know. That's not a thing there, probably, but it's a stereotype of cinema, and people would get it. They would tie it together, even though it's not connected, like a lot of other the history that they don't realize.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense given that they make most of the cinema that tells us the history. So they wouldn't get their own history that they created for us. Yeah, fun.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny because peace rhymes with tease, so then I had to
Uh,
make up the
that's what
rest.
it is.
So that's how you reverse engineer jokes, so they're not funny. See, anyone, a lot of people could be funny, but to take a good joke and to ruin it, I think is a special skill, and I like to do that.
Okay, well, you need to have a competition with Dyer on that one. It'll be
Ooh,
right.
ooh, Jay would win. He's very competitive. I'd be
Yeah.
like, I'm just having fun, just hoping to, give some value to the audience. But he's good. Like he practices a lot, man. He's not like Cobra Kai, like in a bad way, but just like from the Johnny like diligence thing, how he was always going to the dojo and that dude was like going out with chicks and like having fun and stuff. And the other guys were like super serious, like Jay's serious like that. He was on the Hodge twins this week. Did you see him?
Last time I saw Jay pop up was when and he was trying to dunk on people on whatever, and I didn't tune in for that one.
He was in White Man Can't Jump. I think it was where he was dunking. Um, he was on a Hodge Twins this week talking about Christianity and Islam and Israel. And Hodge Twins were getting learnified over there. And I didn't get to see the whole thing, but I was like, it was cool to see him in studio and like raising the level of thought on some of these topics with additional nuance. So it's something we can't do here on this show. But that's why we have Tease here and Paul and Scott.
Hey, give me the word. I'll make it happen.
Grease is the word. It's got groove. It's got feeling. Something like that. It was the word back in 1976. It was a big time for John Travolta before he did Pulp Fiction. Got shot at the end. Did you guys ever, like when I was in college, I worked in a video store for a little bit and I knew how to bootleg stuff with VCRs back in the day. I took it upon myself to cut Pulp Fiction into sequential order. That movie sucks. Don't do that. Just don't do it. I can see why they mixed it all up. It's a real downer. It's not a very uplifting movie. Real tale of warning, and it made me not want to go to diners for a while. Anyway, we do have. Do we have the next block? We do. We do. The next block is patiently waiting for us. Now, what we've got here is we've got some contrary to the mainstream media narrative, perspectives, analysis, reactions. So, this past week at the Capitol Jewish Museum, someone who was about to propose next week to someone else who worked at the Israeli embassy, right? How do you know that they're going to get engaged next week? I always thought that type of thing was a surprise, but they know ahead of time over there that they were going to get engaged next week. It's a very tragic, ongoing. Someone went in and shot them and then went in and turned themselves in. And the question is, who is this terrorist who is now bringing like a whole lot of consequences with those actions for an entire group of people who currently are being persecuted by like a bully? So like, who's doing the work of the bully to take away the legitimacy of the argument and frame it in a very closely held to a certain nation state, maybe country C in certain reports, It's just an interesting framing. So I'm not making any conclusions. I don't have a jump to conclusions, Matt, although I do love Mike Judge's Office Space. We are going to look at some things that make you go, huh? Because in these, if you've been around long enough, usually in these situations, there's certain hallmarks of things that are done legitimately and certain hallmarks of, what's the French term for it? The terror factory. Inside the FBI's Manufactured War on Terror. It's a book by Trevor Aronson. He's a journalist down in Tampa, Florida. And he passed on an interview with Grand Theft World years ago. But his book, I think we're just too far outside his narrative. Because I would say, hey, what's up with 1993? Did the FBI not hire Imad Salem to do that one? So anyway, he's got boundaries. We're outside that narrative. And to know about these things, you know, if the story just came out, person A shot persons B and C, and there wasn't a whole history of our tax dollars going into artificially make people, shoot people, and Sirhan and MK Ultra and Mark David Chapman and a whole list of things that have gone on in history, and the people in that story are still in control and leading a narrative and just did COVID and all these different things, like you have to weigh that on the scale too. So you can't just look at any of these news stories in a vacuum of what they're presenting it. You have to say, what about this? And what about this? What about Thomas Matthew Crooks's house being sterilized? Like it had just been sanitized prior to like our police in this country getting there. Who has the power to do that and walk away clean? I can only tell you there's only like 3 agencies on the planet that do stuff like that. And they probably all did it together so that there's plausible deniability. Twice a year, I teach a course called Autonomy. It's a 12-week course. It teaches leadership, entrepreneur skills, executive skills, all these types of things that I saw were taken out of our education system in order to make the schooling or indoctrination system that we've all probably went through. And it has served us well enough to be interchangeable cogs in the machine of the globalists. But if we want a homestead, if we want write our own ticket, work from home job, work from anywhere type of situation, they're not exactly handing those out at the end of college. They give you a piece of paper and they're like, good luck. So reality is dropping us off here, but the demands of reality are up here. So I created Autonomy to help people close that gap for themselves so they can level up their skills to the demands of the situations that life is putting in front of us presently. Life's demands of intellect and understanding precision and complexity are ever increasing. The schooling didn't prepare us for it. The media is not going to do anything but reinforce what schooling prepared us for. And so we're going to have to take a leadership position and take steps off the beaten path to kind of blaze our own trail in life. What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man. Come